Morning. It's kind of different having the meditation in the beginning, isn't it? Everybody here just kind of laid back and... Hey, Harry. How you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for the shout-out on Facebook this week. Yeah. Earlier we had an announcement about next week and Blue Jean Sunday for Gilda's Club, and I want to talk just a little bit about that. Gilda's Club was named after Gilda Radner by her husband, Gene Wilder, who started it after she died of ovarian cancer. And they have sites all over the country, and they're developing one in Kansas City right now. And it's just a remarkable organization that tends to every single aspect of cancer. It has support and education for the person who has cancer. It has support and education for the friends and family members who are there to teach them how to go through that process. It has support and education for grieving after the loss of a loved one through cancer. It's just all-encompassing for all people, an incredible organization. And that's why we've chosen to partner with it as one of our community outreach programs. For more information, I believe there's information by the bulletin board, or Penny will have a table out front, but it's a most worthwhile cause. The other thing, Heidi mentioned that there's going to be a pipe party at David Westbrook's house. And I'd just like to clarify, for those of you who are stuck in the 60s, this doesn't mean you bring your pipe. I saw a lot of smiles come about when that was mentioned. It's like, yes, this is the church I want to belong to. But that is not the pot we want people to put their money into. And we're looking at the organ. It's good to be alive. Hey, the subject today is love. And in the book of Matthew, Jesus says, love your enemies. When I think of love, I think of the love, the affection, the admiration, the attraction I have for good friends, for family members, for all of you, for flowers. It's just that deep connection. And so when I read in the Bible, love your enemies, I think that is impossible. First of all, because I don't want to. I don't want to have the deep attraction for somebody I consider my enemy. And second of all, I don't think I have the ability to have that same attraction, that same feeling for them that I do for those who I love very deeply. But it clearly states, love your enemy. Now, believe me, folks, I spent all week looking for a loophole. And there isn't one. I thought for sure Jesus meant love your enemy unless they have done this to you. Love your enemy if they are not this way. But it doesn't. It says love your enemy. But what I have discovered is that the love that Jesus talks about, the biblical definition of love, isn't what we normally think about, whether it be romantic love or enamoration or that close connectedness to other people. The love that Jesus talks about throughout the Bible is more of a sense of unity. It doesn't necessarily mean accepting people's behavior. It doesn't mean living up to someone else's expectations so that they will love you back. It doesn't mean molding yourself into artificial standards because somebody insists that you're that way. It doesn't mean that you're a doormat that people can walk over. Love doesn't even mean that you have to like the other person. But what it does mean is that you have to recognize, acknowledge that they are a part of this world. They are a part of existence. They are a part of your world. They're a part of God's world. And quite simply, that gets down to just don't hurt them. Don't think bad thoughts about them. Just leave them alone. Now, the reason this is so important because love, in the clearest and most concise definition, is unity. And I don't mean the unity spiritual movement. I don't mean this unity church. I don't mean the activities that take place here, but I'm talking about this connectedness. It is all what we call spirit. It is all what we call God. And there is one thing. Everything is connected. Everything is in unity, whether we are able to realize that or not. If we don't see unity in the world, it's only because our thoughts have defined somebody or something as not a part of our life or something that we don't want to be in unity with. But unity is the one thing that has created all that is. It's the one thing, the one cause that allows us to be here today. Now let me explain that a little bit. And in explaining, I always love to go back to the beginning. Many of you people have heard me tell this story before, but it's always good to hear it again. In the beginning there was nothing, there was a void. And then a tiny glowing orb, just like smaller than an ember, a millionth the size of an ember, a small, tiny, glowing orb, came out of nowhere into the nothingness. And it expanded hundreds of millions of miles in every direction. It lit up the heavens with fire. When it cooled down, it precipitated and allowed tiny little bits of substance, physical substance, to come forth for the first time. And all of this happened in less than 1 second. Now just imagine for a second that you're in a chamber, an anti-gravity chamber, and you take a handful of sand and you throw the sand through the chamber, and you can sit there and watch that sand as it goes out in a chaotic way, each little grain of sand forming its own direction, a design being created by all the sand grains together, and you just see them being spewed out. And that's the way it was in the beginning with these tiny bits of matter. They were just spewed out throughout the universe, everywhere. But then something happened. Something that we wouldn't expect to happen, something that we'd even consider impossible to happen. Once again, all in less than a second. And these tiny bits of particles were attracted to each other. They had 10 minutes, based on scientific evidence, 10 minutes to join together, or they would perish forever. Those that did join together earned eternity. They still exist today. They're in your cells, they're in your molecules, and their atoms. These tiny bits of matter. Now, as time went on, these tiny bits of matter began to congregate. And little congregations of these bits of matter joined together with other congregations. And over time, galaxies, solar systems, asteroids came into motion, all as a right of the collective unity of these little bits of matter. 10 billion years of networking, 10 billion years of networking, and the Earth came forth. All of those tiny little bits of matter that burst forth from this tiny orb 14 billion years ago. The Earth came forth. And on this new planet, there was bacteria. And the bacteria began to congregate together. Trillions and trillions of bacteria in a single colony. They were a very hugging, clinging bunch, very much like some people say unity people are today. But that's in our genes. That was our foremother, was the bacteria, and it flirted with the sun, or commingled with the sun, and from the bacteria life came forth. And from this life force came cells, and then the cells joined together and congregated, and they began to make life forms. Then we skip forward 4 billion more years, and here we are. Now the point of this is that spirit, that which was there in the beginning, is now and shall evermore be, that energy that came forth from that small, tiny, glowing orb, had within its nature a sense of unity. Everything had to be united in order for it to evolve. Unity is the key of evolution.